player or someone you watch even more specifically because there's things in his game maybe you would want to add to yours in the league?
Man, I think Luka. I mean, Luka's amazing and he's incredible. I think the way he can not only score the ball, but also the way he passes. And I think the thing about him is, like, he's not the fastest, he's not the most athletic, but he can get his defender to move where he wants him to go, and he takes up that space, and he does a really good job of either keeping the defender behind him or keeping him to the side. So I think that's something I can certainly learn from. Like, I always kind of want to run away from the defense rather than absorbing the contact.
To fully understand why this matters, you have to look at what Stephanie White actually did during the 2024 season. After Caitlin Clark dropped 35 points in a playoff loss to Connecticut, a performance that should have reinforced her centrality, the response was not to give her more control. It was the opposite. The very next game, Indiana installed an offense where Clark touched the ball less. More off-ball actions. More corner spacing. More possessions where others initiated. The philosophy shifted from give Caitlin the ball to make Caitlin fit. And that's where the disconnect lies. When you have a rookie averaging nearly 20 points and leading the league in assists, you don't reduce her role. You expand it. You don't turn her into a decoy. You turn her into the engine. That's what Dallas does with Luka. That's what Golden State did with Steph Curry. That's what great coaches do with generational talent, they don't flatten it for the sake of balance. Stephanie White comes from a different school. One that values equality over hierarchy. One that believes everyone eating matters more than one player feasting. And in theory, that sounds noble. But in practice, it often means your best player is setting screens instead of hunting mismatches. Caitlin Clark understands this now. And she's no longer just adjusting to the league. She's shaping her place in it.
Wait, how do you feel about Luka Doncic? Let's take a look.
A wrist sprain in that game and has been out since. And that puts a lot on the plate of players like Spencer Dinwiddie, who just came in, who finds Marshall for the corner three.
You see the Mavs just play differently without Luka on the floor. He's a guy who's high usage rate, the ball's in his hands. When he's not on the floor, that ball is moving, it's popping. Multiple players getting involved in action, and everyone's stepping up.
Lower usage rate.
When Luka's on the floor, the ball's moving.
Now go back and actually listen to what Caitlin Clark said about Luka Doncic, but this time, listen without assuming it's just praise. Because it isn't. It's a blueprint. She doesn't talk about highlights. She doesn't gush about scoring titles. She talks about mechanics. About how Luka manipulates defenders. About how he forces them to move where he wants them to go. About how he occupies space instead of fleeing from it. That level of detail matters. This isn't casual fandom. This is a player describing the offensive principles she wants implemented around her. When Clark says Luka takes up that space, she's talking about physicality, gravity, and control. She's talking about standing firm instead of drifting. About punishing defenses for overcommitting instead of escaping pressure. Then she makes it unmistakably personal. She admits she tends to run away from defenders rather than absorb contact. She frames it as a tendency, but it sounds more like a concession. A realization. Almost an admission that the way she's been used hasn't fully aligned with her instincts or strengths. Read between the lines, and the translation is clear. This is how I've been playing because this is what the system demanded, but I've been watching how elite teams maximize elite players, and I know there's another way. That's not commentary. That's instruction. And the setting amplifies it. She's not saying this in a closed-door meeting. She's saying it on national television. Sitting next to Reggie Miller and Carmelo Anthony, two players who built Hall of Fame careers in systems that empowered them rather than restricted them. Clark knows exactly who's listening. She knows her coach will see it. She knows the front office will hear it. And she knows fans will dissect every word. This is Caitlin Clark asserting basketball agency without ever sounding confrontational. She's not demanding change. She's modeling it. She's saying, here's what works at the highest level. Here's what I'm studying. Here's how I see the game. And because she delivers it calmly, thoughtfully, and respectfully, it lands differently. It doesn't sound like rebellion. It sounds like leadership. That's what makes the moment so powerful. She's telling Stephanie White what she expects, not by criticizing the past, but by describing the future.
Here's Knicks game. I wonder if she's going to be breaking down some film, maybe. I wonder if she's going to be saying, hey, it's kind of amazing how JJ Redick is scheming Luka Doncic open here. It's kind of impressive how JJ Redick is calling plays and moving players around on the court that gets Luka Doncic clear shots. The movement that they do to get Luka Doncic the ball. It's kind of impressive. I wondered if she was going to kind of drop some hints to Coach Stephanie about the way that they're using Luka in LA is how I want you
If you go back and watch that old Stephanie White clip carefully, the most revealing part isn't what she says, it's how she says it. Her body language tells the real story. She's not neutral. She's not analytical. She's animated. Almost bouncing in her seat. There's genuine excitement in her reaction as she watches Dallas move the ball without Luka Doncic on the floor. Everyone touching it. Everyone involved. Everyone stepping into a role. That reaction speaks volumes about her basketball philosophy. To Stephanie White, basketball is at its best when no single player dominates. When responsibility is distributed. When the system matters more than the star. That approach has deep roots in the WNBA, where balance, cohesion, and shared opportunity have long been emphasized over heliocentric offenses. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it's exactly how Indiana played during the 2024 playoffs. During that postseason run, the Fever repeatedly ran sets where Caitlin Clark became a decoy. She set screens away from the ball. She stood in the corner while others initiated offense. There were possessions where the player who had just broken the WNBA single-season assist record barely touched the ball. The offense flowed, yes, but it flowed around her, not through her. That wasn't accidental either. That was philosophy in action. What complicates things is that Caitlin Clark notices everything. She may not clap back on social media. She may not publicly challenge criticism. But she absorbs it. She studies it. And she definitely saw that Stephanie White clip circulating online last year. A clip where her coach looked thrilled watching a superstar sit, a clip fans interpreted as a subtle indictment of star-driven basketball. Clark understood what that meant. She understood the implication that no matter how talented you are, the system comes first. So when Clark later goes on national television and praises Luka's ability to bend defenses, to dictate movement, to control space, it reads differently. It sounds like admiration. But it's also contrast. A quiet juxtaposition between how Dallas treats its generational talent and how Indiana has treated hers. Clark isn't rejecting team basketball. She's rejecting the idea that maximizing everyone else requires minimizing the best player. Because she's lived that version of basketball already. And she's seen its limits. There's a reason Dallas looks lost without Luka and unstoppable with him. It's because everything is built around his presence. Indiana, by contrast, tried to prove it didn't need Clark to dominate. And in doing so, often neutralized the very advantage she brings. This isn't about ego. It's about efficiency. And Clark knows it. When your rookie averages nearly 20 points and leads the league in assists, you don't ask her to disappear into the flow. You let the flow come from her. That's the lesson Clark is drawing. And that's the lesson she's subtly broadcasting.
Or am I preaching? Amen. Let's take a look on what Caitlin Clark had to say about CBA negotiations.
The biggest moments the WNBA has ever seen. Looking forward into the future, what would you like to see happen as you come to a negotiation?
Well, honestly, I don't think it's just a big moment for the WNBA. I think all of women's sports, I think this is one of the biggest moments we've ever had. So, I feel very confident that we're going to get something done, and that's because we're in this moment because of the product we put on the floor. So we need to be able to continue to do that, and I know everybody's working really hard. There's a meeting tomorrow that's super important, and I truly do believe we're going to get something done here in the next couple weeks. But like you said, there's a lot of boxes that we still need to check. We've added two new teams. There's going to be more players than ever, and then we have to get into free agency, then have a normal draft as well. So there's a lot of things left to do, but I really do feel confident that both sides are going to reach a deal here soon.
Yeah, draft slated for April 13th, but the growth of the league has been so much. Can you just help us to understand the transition?
What all of this ultimately points to is a quiet power shift, and Caitlin Clark understands it better than almost anyone in the league right now. She isn't fighting her coach publicly. She isn't leaking frustration to reporters. She isn't stirring drama on social media. Instead, she's doing something far more effective. She's redefining expectations in plain sight. Clark's rise has fundamentally changed the conversation around the WNBA, whether people are comfortable admitting it or not. Ratings follow her. Arenas fill when she plays. Broadcasts linger on her reactions, her decisions, her body language. That kind of gravity changes the rules. And when you have that gravity, you don't need to demand control, you naturally acquire it. This is why her Luka commentary matters beyond X's and O's. It's not about copying Dallas. It's about establishing a principle: elite players deserve systems designed to amplify them, not suppress them. Clark isn't saying team basketball is wrong. She's saying misusing greatness is worse. The league has spent decades trying to convince fans that stars don't matter as much as systems. Caitlin Clark is proof that the opposite is true. Systems matter most when they serve stars, not when they neutralize them. That's the NBA lesson the WNBA is still catching up to, and Clark is forcing that realization simply by existing at this level. What makes her approach so effective is restraint. She never says, "Build it around me." She says, "I study how the best are used." She never criticizes coaching decisions directly. She explains what she's learning. She never positions herself against the league. She positions herself as invested in its growth. That's leadership in modern sports. Quiet. Strategic. Impossible to dismiss. Stephanie White and everyone else in the organization now has a choice. Continue applying an old-school philosophy to a new-era player, or adapt to the reality that Caitlin Clark isn't just another talented guard. She's a structural force. The kind that changes how teams think, how leagues market themselves, and how basketball is played.
It's not far-fetched. Shoot, I wasn't happy. I know many of you weren't happy. Decoy Caitlin, pick setter Caitlin, corner three Caitlin. Hey, Caitlin, you just went crazy against the New York Liberty. Calm down now, Caitlin. Let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. Am I right?
Did you notice what just happened? Because on the surface, it looked harmless, almost forgettable. Caitlin Clark sat on national television and spent about half a minute praising Luka Doncic. Nothing controversial. No shots fired. No drama. Just one young superstar talking admiringly about another. That's how it appeared. But when you zoom out and place that moment in its proper context, it stops being casual praise and starts looking a lot more like a deliberate signal. Caitlin Clark doesn't speak randomly. She doesn't ramble. Every public appearance she makes is controlled, measured, and intentional. So when she chose to go into detail about Luka Doncic's offensive approach, how he manipulates defenders, how he creates space, how he dictates the flow of the game, it wasn't filler conversation. It was specific. And specificity matters. What makes this moment truly significant is who her head coach is and what that coach has publicly celebrated in the past. Stephanie White, Clark's coach with the Indiana Fever, went viral roughly a year and a half ago during a Dallas Mavericks game. In that clip, White appeared visibly excited, almost relieved, when Luka Doncic went to the bench. She praised the way Dallas moved the ball without him. She loved the shared touches. The equal opportunity offense. The idea that the team didn't need its superstar on the floor to function. That clip wasn't taken out of context. It reflected a philosophy. A belief system. One rooted deeply in traditional team-first basketball ideology: no one player should dominate the offense, no matter how talented they are. Now fast forward to the present. Caitlin Clark, the most watched, most scrutinized, most impactful rookie the WNBA has seen in years, is sitting on NBC's Sunday Night Basketball broadcast. And instead of echoing her coach's philosophy, she's praising the exact opposite. She's highlighting a system where everything bends around a generational talent. Where the offense is designed to amplify one player's strengths rather than dilute them for the sake of balance. That contrast is not accidental. Clark knows the clip of Stephanie White celebrating Luka sitting down went viral. She knows how often it's been replayed. She knows fans, analysts, and players noticed it. And she knows exactly how her own usage in Indiana has been discussed since she entered the league. This wasn't just admiration, it was alignment. But not alignment with her coach. Alignment with a different vision of basketball. When a franchise player publicly praises a style of play that directly contradicts her coach's stated preferences, that's not coincidence. That's communication. And doing it on national television, during a high-profile NBA broadcast, makes the message impossible to ignore. This wasn't Caitlin Clark saying, "I like Luka." This was Caitlin Clark quietly stating, "This is how I see myself. This is how I believe elite talent should be used." And when you understand that context, those 30 seconds suddenly carry a lot more weight than they initially appeared to.